Journeyverse Journeys, Part 16. Air Force C-130 en route to Sunnydale. Hey Jack, check this out. O'Neill moved over to where Daniel was typing into a laptop computer. He looked at the screen and saw what looked to be a battlefield. Where's that? Iraq? Iran? Sunnydale. Jack choked. What? That's Sunnydale High School. Picture taken this summer. The news reports called it a gas leak. Jack stared at the picture in disbelief. Who the hell wrote that up? Look at the burn marks and the debris field. That was a bomb blast. Who the hell would blow up a high school? You mean, other than the students? Jack looked at Daniel sourly. Real funny. Could you please be serious? Daniel tapped a key and brought up another picture. I am serious. This is a grad photo from Sunnydale High. Check out the third guy from the left in the second row. Jack squinted at the picture, easily recognizing Alexander Harris. Shit. So, Jared, what's got you out and on the freeway this time of year? Oh, I'm just moving around some, getting a taste for freedom, you know? Xander smiled dryly. Yeah, I was going to do that myself this summer. Turned around and bit me on the butt, though. Really? Jared asked, curious. How? Oh, stuff kept cropping up. Little things here and there. Life. That sort of thing. Inside, Xander was alternating between laughing and choking as he casually degenerated his entire summer to life. They chatted back and forth for a while, enjoying the relaxed drive as they headed north. At one point, Xander picked up the newspaper from the dash. You mind? He asked, holding the paper up for Jared to see. Not at all. Xander glanced at the article the paper had been folded upon, frowning at the headline. Ritual serial killer claims 3 more victims. Xander glanced through the story, frowning and mumbling to himself as he did. Is it just me, Elan, or does this story stink? Elan's voice echoed back a few seconds later. It is definitely an occult ritual. The mysterious blood symbols on the wall they describe sound like an appeasement ceremony. Appeasement ceremony? Xander asked aloud, forgetting himself for a moment. What was that? Jared looked over at his passenger, noting with surprise the grim look on his face as he read the paper. Xander looked up in surprise. Sorry, thinking aloud. This story sounds like an occult ritual. Probably some nutcase thinks the deaths will satisfy some demon or dark god who granted him a gift of some type. Jared looked even more surprised. That was what I decided it was. Do you have much experience with the occult, Mr. Harris? Xander smirked. More than I'd like. But actually, I just tend to hang around with experts in the subject. Wish I could call one of my friends about this. He'd probably be able to tell me everything down to the name of the ritual and what demon it was for. Are you serious? Jared was seriously interested now. Sure. G-Man specialized in this stuff. G-Man? Is he a profiler with the FBI? Xander laughed. No, he's a librarian. But I think he used to be the curator at some museum in London, too. Could you call him? Xander looked over, puzzled. Why? Jared pulled out one of the many pieces of identification from his pocket. Because I'm with the FBI and I was heading to Billings to investigate this case. Xander shrugged. Got a phone? Giles' apartment, Sunnydale, California. Giles stumbled through his apartment, wiping the sleep from his bleary eyes. He'd been researching locator spells for the past 3 weeks, in the hopes of finding a clue to Xander's whereabouts. The girls had been nearly hysterical when the university term had begun, and Xander hadn't shown. Willow had privately performed a locator spell nearly a month ago, secretly worried about the lack of contact from her oldest friend. She had come to him, nearly in tears when the spell had failed. Since then, he and the girls had been in research mode, nearly full-time as they attempted to locate Xander. He picked up the phone, managed to rasp out a tired, Rupert Giles' residence. Yo, G-Man, I need some 411. Xander winced at the yells coming over the phone, and pulled the cell away from his ear. Geez, G-Man, take a breath, Xander managed after a few seconds. No, I couldn't call you. No, I swear. Look, I was out of reach, okay? No, I'm serious. Look, no, listen, would you? Giles, there's no phones, no computers. No, are you kidding me? I didn't even know that you used telegraph anymore. Jared looked over in curiosity as his passenger tried to calm down his friend. Look, I'm back, okay? Tell the girls that I'm alive. I'm fine. Nothing more than an extra scar or two and a head full of memories I'm going to try and forget. You finished? Good. Look, I'm here with an investigator for the FBI who's looking into a case in Billings. Christ, Giles, what do you do with your day? Channel surf looking for occult murders? You do? Get a life, man. Jared flicked another glance at the young man, trying to gauge whether he was joking or if the man he was talking to actually spent his time looking for things like this. He didn't think the boy was joking. So, what's the 411 on the Billings murder? Yeah, we figured that. Uh-huh. Is he a major demon? Great. Okay, well, that's not so bad. Crap. Scratch that. What? Man, that sucks. Okay, sure, yeah, I'll take care. No, I'm gonna stay with the Fed. Hell no. He's gonna need backup who knows what's up. Alright, will do. Kiss Buffy and Wills for me. Xander pulled the phone away from his ear again, this time grinning as the words came through crystal clear over the cell phone's small speakers. I will do no such thing! Alright. Jeez. You should really see someone about that fear of intimacy you have. Xander flicked off the phone before Giles could answer, and turned back to Jared. G-Man says that it's definitely an appeasement ritual. The murderer is almost certainly stinking rich, and this is a series of thank you notes to a demon by the name of Melkai. He has 3 or more of these to do before he's done, unless there are some that haven't been found yet. Jared looked at Xander oddly. Demon? Xander shrugged. He figured that Jared was going to find out eventually, but he knew that the man wouldn't believe him now. It's not important if you believe it. It's just important that the murderer does. Jared nodded his head. That was something he could understand. Anything else I should know? Guy is newly rich, within the last year. Probably made the papers as he climbed the ladder, too. So it's all over money. Jared spat out the last word. Afraid so. Xander shrugged. I've seen worse. Jared gave him such a penetrating look that he decided to expand on the statement. I've seen worse done for less, Jared. I've known people who killed for fun, and I use the term people loosely. You mind if I ride with you to check this out? Jared considered the request. Something told him that the boy wasn't going to go away, even if he told him no. Finally, he nodded his assent. Okay, but you stay close to me and do what I say. If things get dangerous, you run. Xander grinned. Sure. I noticed you didn't say what direction you would run in, Elan muttered into his head. Oh, shut up. Giles's apartment, Sunnydale, California. You're sure he's all right? Giles sighed and rubbed the bridge of his nose. As far as I could tell over the phone, yes, he's fine. He won't be when I get my hands on him, Buffy promised. I mean, leaving us like that? How could he? Not even with a message or a goodbye? He did say he was unable to communicate, Buffy. Perhaps you should consider giving him a chance to explain. Yes, Willow added. Obviously he wasn't over in Oxnard or something. My locator spell should have found him, no matter where he was on Earth. All right, Buffy fumed. First he explains, then I hit him. That sound good? Oh, much better, Giles sighed again. So, Buffy, you have a date with Parker tonight? Buffy smiled. Yeah. Oh my God, I have to go get ready. Willow and Buffy left the room in a tear, leaving Giles thinking to himself, where have you been, Xander? Hey, Jared, Xander asked. I don't want to run up your minutes or anything, but could I make another call? Jared looked over. Sure, go ahead. Thanks, Matt. I owe you one. Xander dialed the number to the Halliwell house. Halliwell Manor, San Francisco, California. The phone rang 3 times before Prue grabbed it. Halliwell residence. Prue, it's Xander. Xander! Prue yelled into the phone in shock. Where have you been? We tried a scrying spell and... Xander winced as Prue was cut off, and a loud bang echoed through the receiver. Prue? Prue? Xander! Xander smiled. Hey, Phoebe, how are you? Don't you how are you me? Where have you been? Would you believe out? Xander asked lightly, wincing at the scream he heard up through the line. Jared swerved the car slightly in surprise at the loud noise that came from the phone. Vocal, isn't she? Xander quickly covered the phone. Well, I have been missing for... Say, what date is it? Jared raised an eyebrow. September 14th? July, August... Guess that's almost 3 months. Jared looked at his passenger curiously and considered asking, but he decided to let Xander get back to his conversation. So, Phoebe, how have you been? No. Well, actually, yes. No, I'm not kidding. No, they weren't demons. Yes, I'm sure. No, I'm sure that's why the spell didn't work too. No, I'm not kidding with you. I'll swing through San Fran before I head to Sunny D. Yes, I promise. You sent me how many emails? Okay. I said okay, didn't I? Yes, I'll answer them all. No, I don't know when. Look, I'm heading into Billings now. No. Well, yes, it looks bad. Of course I'll be careful this time. I told you, I only take stupid risks when there's something worth winning. Bye. I'll see you all as soon as I can. Jared smiled and accepted the cell phone from his passenger. You'll be careful this time? Xander grimaced. Let's just say this isn't the first occult-related murder I've investigated. It's starting to become a full-time job. Surely there can't be that many, Jared asked. You'd be surprised. Most cases like this get buried by the police department before the media shows up. They don't like panicked people screaming, Devil worshipper, through the streets. Very interesting, Jared mused. And you're saying that there are enough cases like this to occupy you full-time? Me and God knows how many others, Xander muttered. I'm not the only so-called demon hunter running around the country. I know at least a dozen personally, and that's just in California. I must say that I find it shocking that there are that many crimes of this nature. I used to say something similar, Xander grinned, although with much more panic and fear in my voice. A friend of mine told me several times, there are more things on heaven and earth. Shakespeare, I think. Jared smiled. I suppose your friend was being overly philosophical. Xander smiled slowly, looking over at Jared. Ask me that after we catch the guy who killed these people, Jared. Ask me after that. Halliwell Manor, San Francisco, California. Well, Piper asked, having come into the room, about the same time as Phoebe tackled Prue for the phone. Is he all right? He says that he is. Phoebe stared at the receiver for a moment. But I'm not sure he will be when I get my hands on him. Did he say what happened to him? He said he was abducted by aliens. I think he was serious. Her sisters just stared at her for a moment, uncertain how to react. Finally, it was Piper who broke the silence. You've got to be kidding me. September 15th, Sunnydale, California, Sunnydale High School. Gas leak my Aunt Fanny, O'Neill muttered as he looked at the ruins of the high school. Look at the chemical burns over there. Hell, check this out. Jack leaned down and picked up a piece of debris from the ground. This is a military-grade detonator. What in the name of hell happened here? Samantha Carter walked up to him, a sheaf of paper in her hand. The local PD interviewed everyone present at the time of the explosion. Looks like they were all hallucinating, sir. Excuse me, Captain? Everyone present reported that the mayor turned into a giant snake that ate half the assembled people. Parents and students said the same thing. Wait a second. What is it? A few people were apparently clean. They said that they smelled gas and thought that what was caused the explosion and hallucinations. Do they list names? Carter nodded. 3 guesses who tops the list. Alexander Harris. Jack simply shook his head. That's right. Who are the others? We'll look them up and see what they know about our friend Harris. Let's see. Rupert Giles, Elizabeth Summers, Willow Rosenberg, and Daniel Osborne. Let's get cracking then. Billings, Montana. Local FBI offices. Special Agent Jared Ford, I've been dispatched here from the Nevada office to look into your ritualistic serial killings. This is my assistant, Alexander Harris. The FBI agent behind the desk looked over the 2 men casually, noting that the agent looked typical, but his assistant was scary. The young man walking behind the agent had long, scraggly hair that looked like he hadn't been able to visit a barber in months, and a week's growth of beard that looked like it had last been cut dry without a mirror. Would you and your assistant like to get started immediately? No, Jared smiled. We're just checking in. Procedure, you know. My assistant is just back from a survival exercise in the Colorado mountains. We'll be back this afternoon. The agent smiled. Very good. I'll inform the section chief of your arrival. Thank you. The agent watched the odd-looking duo walk out of the office and shook his head. Man, what kind of survival training do they give the agents in Nevada? That kid looked like they'd been put through the ringer. You want to what? Sorry, Xander, Jared said, but if you're going to be my assistant, you need to get some new clothes. I can't afford that. My treat, Jared grinned. You're going to make me regret coming with you, aren't you? Not at all. I'm going to get you a proper wardrobe. Xander groaned. I've heard that before. You look good. I feel like a dork. Xander examined himself in the full-length mirror. He was wearing a solid black suit, with black dress shirt underneath. No tie, thank God, but a pair of polished black Oxfords were cramping his feet. I can't afford this. You relax. I told you, I'm paying. I can't ask you to do that. I don't want you to do that. Will you relax? Elan mimicked Jared. He's right. You know, you look good like this. Don't you start, Elan. Elan's giggles ran into his mind as he considered himself against the mirror. Finally, he turned to Jared and spoke. Don't suppose you'd be willing to pay for some food, too? It's been almost 3 months since I've eaten anything better than roots, berries, and the occasional fruits. Xander winced. Not to mention the occasional snake and some other things I don't want to remember right now. Jared looked at him and raised an eyebrow. Sure, but if you don't mind me asking, where were you for the last 3 months? Xander grinned. Tell you what, when I think you're ready to hear it, that's when I'll tell you. Reluctantly, Jared nodded, and the two left the store and headed for the closest restaurant. Underground bunker. Unknown. Ma'am? Yes, soldier? We have 4 Air Force representatives poking around town looking for Mr. Harris. Air Force? Are you certain? Yes, ma'am. Why in the hell would the Air Force officers be looking for Harris? I have no idea, ma'am, but they seem to be looking into Miss Summers and his other friends as well. Is it possible we underestimated his importance in the area? I don't think so, ma'am. Not unless he's been hiding a lot more than we thought. We have video of him at the high school graduation. He seemed to be one of the leaders, but he took orders from Miss Summers. So why is the Air Force tracking him? I don't know. Colonel Jack O'Neill watched as the redhead worked her way across the campus, comparing her to the photos in his hand. That's her, all right. Excuse me, Miss Rosenberg? Willow turned, surprised to see a man in a military uniform approaching her. Yes? Hi, my name's Jack O'Neill. I was wondering if I could talk to you about Alexander Harris. You seen Xander? Willow beamed. Is he all right? I mean, I know he said he was all right, but you never know with Xander. Jack waited for the girl to run out of breath, something that took a lot longer than it would have expected. Yes, he's fine, at least the last time I saw him. Has he contacted you lately? Yes, he... Willow trailed off, looking at the colonel with suspicion. Why are you asking about Xander? Well, he helped us out a few days ago, and we wanted to talk to him about the mission. Mission? Willow's eyes flared. Mission? He didn't say anything about fighting. We told him to stop risking himself like that. Oh, when I get my hands on him, Buffy's gonna have to wait in line to hit him. Jack raised his eyebrows in confusion. Excuse me? Meanwhile, Willow had continued on her rant, oblivious to the people around her. He swore to me that he wouldn't go looking for trouble this summer. Ma'am, strange as it seemed, Jack felt like he should defend the boy. He did save our lives. Of course he did. He always does that. Willow was flailing her arms around as she turned away from O'Neill and started to stalk off. Excuse me, I have to go talk to someone. Colonel Jack O'Neill watched, stunned as the petite redhead stalked off, an almost visible fog of fury floating around her. Damn kid must be a saint if he puts up with this shit all the time. Excuse me, are you Elizabeth Summers? Captain Carter approached the small blonde tentatively. Yes? Buffy turned to the woman in a military dress uniform with a curious look on her face. Would you happen to know an Alexander Harris? Xander? Buffy looked up sharply. How do you know Xander? Carter shifted slightly. He pulled my team out of a dangerous situation a few days ago. What? Buffy's eyes flashed with anger, causing Carter to take a step back. He told us he wasn't fighting! Carter opened her mouth to say something, but Buffy kept on. He should know better. He's just a normal guy. He could get hurt. Buffy growled and stalked off, completely forgetting or ignoring the Air Force officer behind her. Carter watched as she left, her jaw hanging slightly down in shock. Normal guy? Hey, Graham nudged Riley. Check it out. What? Your girlfriend is talking to an Air Force captain. Riley turned in annoyance. I don't have a girlfriend. Hey, what's Buffy doing talking to an Air Force captain? Graham rolled his eyes but held his tongue. The two commandos watched as the small blonde suddenly got furious and stalked away from the captain. They looked at each other in confusion, a single thought echoing through their minds. Weird. Daniel Jackson knocked softly on the door and waited patiently for it to open. Hello? Rupert Giles? Daniel smiled when the man nodded. Hello, my name is Daniel Jackson. Dr. Jackson, Giles opened the door. The expert on ancient languages. I'd heard you dropped from site years ago, while I was still the curator at the museum in London. Daniel looked surprised. You are that Rupert Giles? Read your paper on the ancient beliefs and myths of the Babylonian society. It was fascinating, though I think you might give too much credit to Kaufman's theory of demonology and civilization. Giles smiled. Indeed, I rethought that aspect myself after reviewing new evidence, but I've not had the opportunity to publish my new findings. Won't you come in? Thank you. Daniel stepped into the apartment. Always wondered, what do you think of the Egyptian culture and its effects on... Teal'c listened patiently as the teenagers wound down from their practice before he approached the one that matched the photo he had been given. Daniel Osborne. Yeah? Oz turned to look at the imposing figure. I wish to speak with you about Alexander Harris. Oz raised an eyebrow. Shoot. Teal'c matched the boy's facial expression. Do you know Alexander Harris? Yep. Have you seen him recently? Nope. Teal'c nodded. Thank you. Anytime. So, anything? Jack asked Carter as she approached. Carter frowned. Just that his friends seemed to consider him the normal guy of the group. Jack choked. What? She was worried he'd get himself hurt. Something about him being helpless. At least I think that's what she was muttering as she stormed off. Jack shook his head. Mine had something similar to say as she stalked off. Who the hell are these people if they consider him normal? Carter shook her head. Maybe they're just blind, sir. Jack grinned. I hope so. Here's Teal'c. Let's see if he has anything. So? Jack asked as the big Jaffa walked up. Daniel Osborne has not seen Mr. Harris recently. That's it? O'Neill glared at his friend. That is it. Great, Jack griped. Hey, where's Daniel? Carter shrugged. I sent him to talk to Mr. Giles, The folder said that he was an expert on ancient culture. What? Jack yelled, startling Carter. Ah, hell. You sent Daniel to someone as boring as he is? Crap. Now we have to go find him ourselves. Otherwise, we won't see Daniel for a week. Buffy! Willow shouted as a friend when she saw the blonde stalking across the quad. I need to speak to you. Buffy was relieved to find Willow so quickly. Yeah, me too. This army officer was asking me questions about Xander. You too? Willow asked. Mine was an Air Force colonel. He said that Xander had saved his team from some trouble. Oh, Buffy growled. I'm going to hit him when he gets back. He swore he wasn't going looking for trouble this summer. Stand in line, Willow griped as she sat down beside the blonde. I knew him first. I strangle him first. Giles and Daniel were engrossed in conversation when a polite knock sounded on the door. Neither man heard it, and they continued talking for some time, before the door suddenly rattled on its hinges under a somewhat heavier knock. Giles reluctantly got up to answer the door, and was surprised to find 2 military officers and a rather imposing gentleman standing on the other side. Yes? Is Dr. Jackson here? Oh, hey, Jack, Daniel said over Giles's shoulder. Sorry, I've just been discussing ancient myths and legends with Rupert here. Jack waved his hand in front of him, trying to stop the young doctor from continuing. I don't want to know. What I do want to know is if Mr. Giles here has seen or heard from Alexander Harris lately. Xander? Giles was shocked. What do you want with Xander? He helped our team out of a jam a couple of days ago, and we wanted to talk to him about it. Ah, I see. Giles removed his spectacles and cleaned them. Well, I can't say I've heard from him in quite some time, I'm afraid. Well, if you do, could you let us know? Certainly, Giles said. Now, if you'll excuse me, I do have some work to do. The 4 members of SG-1 looked at each other in confusion, as they were hustled out of the small apartment and the door closed behind them. Mr. Harris has some very strange friends. Jack looked at Teal'c, slightly surprised. If the Jaffa considered them odd, then something was really screwy. Jared and Xander closed the door to the office they had been given, and started opening boxes of evidence and casework that the local agents had dumped on them. Well, Jared grinned as he opened the first box. Let's get to work, shall we? Xander looked at the tons of material and groaned. This has been Journeyverse Journeys, Part 16. Links down below.